Imagine a cosmic battle, raging not in the heavens, but over the earthly remains of one of history's most revered figures. Picture two of the most powerful spiritual beings, the Archangel Michael and Satan himself, locked in a fierce dispute. The prize? The body of a mortal man. But not just any man. This is the body of Moses, the great prophet and leader who led the Israelites out of Egypt. Please kindly subscribe to our channel for Bible stories. Welcome, viewers. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing and lesser-known stories from biblical lore, the fight between good and evil over Moses' mortal remains. This tale combines elements of high drama, spiritual warfare, and profound theological implications that have fascinated scholars and believers for centuries. But who was Moses, and why was his body so important? Moses stands as a towering figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He's the prophet who received the 10 Commandments directly from God, the leader who guided the Israelites through the Exodus and their 40-year journey in the wilderness. His significance in religious history cannot be overstated. Yet, it's not his life we're focusing on today, but rather a mysterious event that allegedly occurred after his death. An event so momentous that it's mentioned in the New Testament, specifically in the Book of Jude. This single verse opens up a world of questions. Why would Satan want Moses' body? Why was Michael involved? And what does this tell us about the spiritual realities that might exist beyond our perception? In the next minutes, we'll unravel this mystery, exploring its origins, implications, and the fascinating interpretations that have arisen around it. So buckle up for a journey that spans the mortal and the divine, the physical and the spiritual, as we explore the battle for Moses' body. To understand the significance of the battle over Moses' body, we need to grasp the monumental role this man played in history and religion. Moses is not just a key figure in Judaism, he's revered in Christianity and Islam as well. His life story is one of divine intervention, extraordinary leadership, and unparalleled closeness to God. 1. Moses' life and role in Judaism. Moses' story begins with his miraculous survival as a baby. Born to Hebrew slaves in Egypt, he was saved from Pharaoh's decree of death by his mother's clever plan and the compassion of Pharaoh's daughter. Raised in the Egyptian court, Moses' life took a dramatic turn when he fled Egypt after killing an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Years later, God called Moses through the burning bush, commanding him to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. This began Moses' most famous role as the liberator and lawgiver of the Jewish people. Moses confronted Pharaoh, brought the 10 plagues upon Egypt, and led the Israelites through the parted Red Sea to freedom. But his role didn't end there. For 40 years, Moses led the Israelites through the wilderness, acting as their prophet, judge, and intercessor with God. Most significantly, Moses received the 10 Commandments and the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, directly from God on Mount Sinai. This event established the covenant between God and the Israelites, forming the foundation of Judaism. 2. His relationship with God. What sets Moses apart in religious history is his unique relationship with God. The book of Exodus states that God spoke to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. Exodus 33:11. This intimate connection with the divine was unparalleled. Moses' role as an intercessor for his people is particularly noteworthy. Time and again, when the Israelites sinned and God's anger was kindled, Moses pleaded on their behalf, often successfully averting disaster. This special status with God is crucial to understanding why his body might have been so coveted after his death. 3. The circumstances of Moses' death. The end of Moses' life is as intriguing as its beginning. Despite leading the Israelites to the edge of the Promised Land, Moses himself was not allowed to enter it. The Book of Deuteronomy tells us that God showed Moses the Promised Land from the top of Mount Nebo, but decreed that he would not cross over into it. Deuteronomy 34:5-6 describes Moses' death and burial. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day no one knows where his grave is. This mysterious burial by God himself sets the stage for the later dispute over Moses' body. The text emphasizes that no one knew the location of Moses' grave, adding an air of mystery and divine protection to his final resting place. Moses died at the age of 120, with the Bible noting that his eyes were not weak nor his strength gone, Deuteronomy 34:7. This detail suggests that Moses was still in his prime, even at such an advanced age, perhaps hinting at his special status. Now that we understand who Moses was and why he was so important, let's turn our attention to the biblical account of the mysterious struggle over his body. Surprisingly, this event isn't mentioned in the Old Testament. Instead, we find it in a single, cryptic verse in the New Testament's Book of Jude. 1. Explanation of the passage in Jude 1:9. Let's look at the verse in question. Jude 1:9 states, "But even the Archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" This short verse packs a lot of information and raises many questions. Let's break it down. 1. The dispute. The verse tells us there was a conflict between the Archangel Michael and the devil, Satan, specifically about Moses' body. 2. The participants. This wasn't just any spiritual battle. It involved Michael, often seen as the leader of God's angels, and Satan himself. 3. The subject. The dispute was over Moses' body. This is curious because we know from Deuteronomy that God himself buried Moses in an unknown location. 4. Michael's response. Interestingly, even Michael, a powerful archangel, didn't directly rebuke Satan. Instead, he deferred to God's authority, saying, "The Lord rebuke you." This verse doesn't provide details about why they were disputing or what each party wanted with Moses' body. This lack of detail has led to centuries of speculation and interpretation. 2. Context within the Book of Jude. To better understand this verse, we need to consider its context within the Book of Jude. Jude is a very short book, just 25 verses long. It's believed to have been written by Jude, the brother of Jesus and James, sometime in the late 1st century AD. The main purpose of Jude's letter was to warn against false teachers who had infiltrated the church. He encourages his readers to contend for the faith and gives several examples from Jewish history and tradition of God's judgment against the unfaithful. The reference to the dispute over Moses' body comes in a section where Jude is criticizing these false teachers for their arrogance and disrespect towards spiritual authorities. He contrasts their behavior with that of Michael, who, even when confronting Satan, didn't presume to pronounce judgment, but instead relied on God's authority. Jude seems to assume his readers are familiar with this story about Moses' body, which suggests it was part of Jewish tradition at the time. However, this event isn't recorded in the Old Testament, leading scholars to believe Jude was referencing other Jewish writings or oral traditions. One such potential source is a non-canonical Jewish text called The Assumption of Moses, which we'll discuss later in this video. Only fragments of this text survive today, but it's believed to have contained an account of this dispute. This brief mention in Jude opens up a fascinating theological mystery. In the next sections, we'll explore who Michael and Satan are, why they might have been fighting over Moses' body, and what this story might mean for our understanding of the spiritual realm. Now that we've examined the biblical account of the dispute, let's focus on one of its key figures, the Archangel Michael. Understanding who Michael is and his role in various religious traditions will help us grasp why he might have been involved in this cosmic struggle over Moses' body. Who is Archangel Michael? Archangel Michael is one of the most prominent angels in the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The name Michael means "who is like God" in Hebrew, which is often interpreted as a rhetorical question implying that no one is like God. In religious art and literature, Michael is often depicted as a warrior angel, armed with a sword or spear, sometimes shown defeating a dragon, representing Satan. This image stems from his roles in various biblical and traditional accounts. 2. His role in biblical and extra-biblical literature. In the Bible, Michael is mentioned by name in the books of Daniel, Jude, and Revelation. Let's look at his roles. 1. Protector. In the book of Daniel, Michael is described as the protector of Israel. Daniel 12:1 says, "At that time Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise." 2. Warrior. In Revelation 12:7-9, Michael leads God's angels in a war against the dragon, Satan, and his angels, defeating them and casting them out of heaven. 3. Messenger. Though not explicitly stated in the Bible, Tradition often portrays Michael as a messenger of God, similar to the angel Gabriel. In extra-biblical literature and tradition, Michael's roles are expanded. In Jewish tradition, Michael is seen as the advocate of Israel, standing up for the Jewish people before God. In some Christian traditions, he's considered the angel of death, charged with escorting the souls of the deceased to the afterlife. In Islamic tradition, Michael, called Mikael, is responsible for the forces of nature, particularly bringing rain and thunder. 3. Why would he be involved in this dispute? Given what we know about Michael, there are several reasons why he might have been involved in the dispute over Moses' body. 1. Protector of Israel. As the guardian of the Jewish people, Michael might have been tasked with protecting the body of their greatest prophet and leader. 2. Enforcer of God's will. If God had decided to keep Moses' burial place secret, as suggested in Deuteronomy, Michael might have been defending this divine decision against Satan's interference. 3. Psychopomp role. If we consider the tradition of Michael as an escort for souls, he might have been responsible for ensuring Moses' soul, and possibly his body, reached its proper destination after death. 4. Cosmic warrior. The dispute might represent a larger battle between good and evil, with Michael as God's warrior standing against Satan's schemes. 5. Moses' significance. Given Moses' unique relationship with God and his crucial role in establishing the covenant, his body might have been seen as having special spiritual significance, warranting the intervention of an archangel. Michael's involvement in this dispute underscores the importance of Moses and suggests that there were profound spiritual implications to what happened to his earthly remains. But to fully understand this cosmic conflict, we need to examine the motivations of Michael's opponent, Satan himself. Satan's role as accuser and tempter. In biblical and religious traditions, Satan is portrayed as a complex figure with several key roles. 1. The accuser. The name Satan actually means accuser or adversary in Hebrew. In the Book of Job, we see Satan in this role, challenging Job's faithfulness before God. 2. The tempter. In the New Testament, Satan tempts Jesus in the wilderness, trying to derail his mission. This role as a tempter is also seen in the Garden of Eden story. 3. The deceiver. Revelation 12:9 describes Satan as the one who leads the whole world astray. 4. The enemy. Satan is often portrayed as God's enemy and the opponent of God's people. With these roles in mind, let's explore why Satan might have wanted Moses' body. 2. Possible reasons for wanting Moses' body. 1. To prevent proper burial. One theory is that Satan wanted to prevent Moses from receiving a proper burial. But why would this matter? In many ancient cultures, including Hebrew tradition, proper burial was seen as crucial for the deceased's peace in the afterlife. By interfering with Moses' burial, Satan might have been attempting to disrupt God's plan or to dishonor Moses. This aligns with Satan's role as an adversary, opposing God's will and seeking to cause distress to God's chosen ones. 2. To use as an object of idolatry. Another possibility is that Satan wanted to use Moses' body as an object of idolatry. Moses was revered by the Israelites. His physical remains could have become a powerful relic. Satan, as the deceiver, might have planned to use Moses' body to lead the Israelites into idolatry, turning them away from God. This would be particularly ironic and painful given Moses' role in establishing monotheism and his strong stance against idolatry. 3. To deny Moses' special status with God. A third possibility relates to Moses' unique relationship with God. Moses had an unparalleled closeness to God, speaking with him face to face, as one speaks to a friend, Exodus 33:11. Satan, as the accuser, might have been challenging Moses' righteousness or special status even after death. By claiming Moses' body, Satan might have been attempting to deny or tarnish Moses' legacy and his special relationship with God. This could be seen as an extension of Satan's role in Job, where he challenges the righteousness of God's servant. It's worth noting that these reasons aren't mutually exclusive. Satan's motivations could have been a combination of these factors, or even all of them. Moreover, this dispute over Moses' body might represent a larger spiritual conflict. Moses was crucial in establishing God's covenant with Israel. His body might have held spiritual significance beyond mere physical remains. The conflict could symbolize the ongoing battle between good and evil, with Moses' legacy as the battleground. Satan's attempt to claim Moses might have been a challenge to God's authority and a bid to undermine the foundation of faith that Moses helped establish. While we can't know for certain why Satan wanted Moses' body, these possibilities give us insight into the spiritual significance of this event. They highlight the ongoing cosmic struggle between good and evil and underscore Moses' immense importance in salvation history. The dispute between Michael and Satan over Moses' body is more than just an intriguing story. It carries profound theological implications that touch on fundamental aspects of Judeo-Christian belief. Let's explore these implications to deepen our understanding of this mysterious event. 1. The power struggle between good and evil. The conflict over Moses' body can be seen as a microcosm of the cosmic battle between good and evil. 1. Ongoing spiritual warfare. This event suggests that the struggle between good and evil continues even after death. It implies that spiritual forces are at work beyond our physical realm. 2. The value of human souls. The fact that such powerful spiritual beings would contend over a human's remains underscores the immense value placed on human souls in Judeo-Christian theology. 3. Limited power of evil. Despite Satan's efforts, he was unable to simply take Moses' body. This implies limits to the power of evil, especially when confronted by God's authority. 4. God's sovereignty. Ultimately, the dispute was settled by appealing to God's authority. The Lord rebuke you. This emphasizes God's supreme power over both angelic and demonic forces. 2. The importance of the human body in Judeo-Christian tradition. The dispute over Moses' physical remains highlights the significance of the human body in Judeo-Christian thought. 1. Body as temple. In Christian tradition, the body is often referred to as a temple of the Holy Spirit, 1 Corinthians 6:19. This elevates the status of the physical body beyond mere flesh. 2. Resurrection belief. Both Judaism and Christianity teach bodily resurrection. The care for Moses' body might reflect this belief in the future reunion of body and soul. 3. Holiness in life and death. Moses' body, having been the vessel through which God performed mighty deeds, was considered holy. This suggests that holiness can imbue even physical matter. 4. Incarnation theology. In Christian thought, God becoming flesh in Jesus further sanctifies the human body. While this event predates Jesus, it foreshadows the importance of physicality in God's plan. 5. Sacredness of burial. The apparent importance of Moses' burial aligns with the Judeo-Christian emphasis on proper treatment of the dead, seeing it as an act of honor and respect. 3. God's protection of his chosen ones even after death. The story of Michael defending Moses' body speaks to God's enduring care for his chosen ones. 1. Eternal relationship. God's relationship with his chosen people doesn't end at death. The dispute suggests God's ongoing involvement with Moses even after his earthly life ended. 2. Divine honor. By having an archangel defend Moses' body, God demonstrates the honor he bestows on his faithful servants. 3. Posthumous protection. This event implies that God's protection extends beyond our earthly lives, offering comfort to believers about God's eternal care. 4. Validation of Moses' legacy. The divine intervention in preserving Moses' body serves to validate Moses' role and legacy as a crucial figure in salvation history. 5. Mystery of divine action. The secretive nature of Moses' burial and this supernatural conflict remind us that God's ways often remain mysterious to us. These theological implications extend far beyond the immediate story. They touch on core aspects of how we understand the nature of good and evil, the value of human life and death, and the character of God. It reinforces the belief in a God who is intimately involved with his creation, caring even for the physical remains of his servants. It suggests a view of evil as a real, active force in opposition to God's will, but ultimately subject to God's authority. It underscores the dignity and value of the human person, body, and soul in God's eyes. It offers hope in God's eternal faithfulness, extending even beyond death. As we can see, this brief account in Jude opens up vast theological vistas. It invites us to contemplate the unseen spiritual realities that may surround us and the profound dignity that God bestows on human life. While the dispute over Moses' body is briefly mentioned in the Bible, other ancient texts provide additional details and context. These extra-biblical sources can help us understand how this story was interpreted and elaborated upon in ancient times. Let's explore some of these sources. 1. The Assumption of Moses, ancient Jewish text. The primary extra-biblical source for this story is an ancient Jewish text called the Assumption of Moses, also known as the Testament of Moses. One background, written in the 1st century CE around the time of Jesus. Only fragments survive today, but it was known to early church fathers, believed to be the source Jude, referenced in the New Testament. 2. Content related to the dispute. The text reportedly contained a detailed account of the conflict between Michael and Satan over Moses' body. It may have described Satan's accusations against Moses and Michael's defense. Some scholars suggest it included details about Moses' ascension to heaven. 3. Significance. Provides context for Jude's brief mention. Shows that the story was part of Jewish tradition at the time. Demonstrates the ongoing importance of Moses in Jewish thought. 2 other ancient Near Eastern myths and legends about battles over heroes' bodies. The concept of supernatural beings fighting over the bodies of great heroes isn't unique to the Moses story. Similar themes appear in other ancient Near Eastern myths and legends. 1. Greek mythology, the Iliad, gods intervened to protect the bodies of fallen heroes during the Trojan War. Example, Apollo protects Hector's body from desecration by Achilles. 2. Egyptian mythology, the myth of Osiris, Set and Horus contend over Osiris's body, reflects beliefs about the importance of the body for the afterlife. 3. Mesopotamian legends, the Epic of Gilgamesh. While not a direct parallel, it includes themes of the gods, involvement in human death, and the quest for immortality. 4. Ugaritic texts, Baal cycle, describes conflicts between deities that sometimes involve the bodies of the deceased. These myths and legends share common themes with the Moses story, the involvement of supernatural beings in human affairs, even after death, the importance placed on the proper treatment of a hero's body. The idea that a great leader's body might have special significance or power. The existence of these parallel stories suggests that the concept of spiritual beings contending over human remains was a widespread belief in the ancient Near East. However, the Moses story is unique in its monotheistic context and its emphasis on God's ultimate authority. These extra-biblical sources provide valuable context for understanding how the story of the dispute over Moses' body fits into the broader cultural and religious landscape of the ancient world. They highlight the story's themes of the enduring significance of great leaders, the reality of spiritual conflict, and the power of God over death. While these sources provide fascinating details and context, they also raise questions about how we should interpret this story. In our next section, we'll explore various interpretations and debates surrounding this intriguing account. The story of Michael and Satan's dispute over Moses' body has been the subject of much interpretation and debate throughout history. Let's explore some of the ways this intriguing account has been understood and its relevance to modern faith discussions. 1. Literal versus allegorical interpretations. 1. Literal interpretation. Some believe this event literally occurred in the spiritual realm. Proponents argue that the Bible presents it as a real event, not a metaphor. This view often aligns with beliefs in active spiritual warfare. 2. Allegorical interpretation. Others see the story as an allegory or symbolic narrative. It might represent the struggle between good and evil over a righteous person's legacy. Some view it as a way to emphasize Moses' importance and God's care for his servants. 3. Mythological interpretation. A. Some scholars categorize this as a mythological story. B. It could be seen as a way ancient people expressed deep truths about spiritual realities. C. This doesn't necessarily negate its spiritual significance for believers. 2. Various scholarly and theological perspectives. Historical critical approach. Some scholars focus on the historical context of Jude's writing. They might explore how this story functioned in early Christian and Jewish communities. This approach often sees the story as reflecting beliefs of the time rather than historical fact. 2. Theological perspective. Many theologians see this story as revealing important spiritual truths. It's often interpreted as showing God's power over evil and death. Some use it to discuss the nature of spiritual beings and their interactions with our world. 3. Comparative religious studies. Scholars in this field might compare this story to similar myths in other cultures. Well, they explore how it reflects common human concerns about death and the afterlife. 4. Literary analysis. Some focus on how this brief mention functions in the overall message of Jude. They might explore its rhetorical purpose in Jude's argument against false teachers. 5. Philosophical perspective. Philosophers might use this story to discuss questions of body and soul. It raises issues about the nature of evil and its limits. 3. Relevance to modern faith discussions. This ancient story continues to be relevant in modern faith discussions. 1. Spiritual warfare. For those who believe in active spiritual forces, this story affirms the reality of spiritual conflict. It's often cited in discussions about the nature and extent of demonic activity. 2. Body and soul. The story contributes to ongoing debates about the relationship between body and soul. It's relevant to discussions about burial practices and beliefs about the afterlife. 3. God's sovereignty. The account is seen by many as an affirmation of God's ultimate authority over all beings. It's used in discussions about the limits of evil and the assurance of God's protection. 4. Biblical interpretation. This story is often used as an example in debates about how to interpret mysterious or supernatural biblical accounts. It raises questions about the role of extra-biblical sources in understanding Scripture. 5. Interfaith dialogue. The story's parallels in other traditions can serve as a starting point for interfaith discussions. It highlights both commonalities and differences in how various faiths view death and the afterlife. 6. Ethics and legacy. The story raises questions about how we honor the memory of great leaders. It can prompt discussions about the lasting impact of a person's life and work. In the end, this brief account in Jude opens up a wide range of interpretations and applications. Whether taken literally or symbolically, it continues to fascinate believers and scholars alike, prompting deep reflections on the nature of good and evil, life and death, and the enduring significance of faithfulness to God. As we've seen, this ancient story resonates with many modern concerns and continues to be a source of inspiration, debate, and reflection. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of the Bible's most intriguing and mysterious accounts. May it inspire you to delve deeper into the rich tapestry of faith, history, and mystery that makes up our spiritual heritage. Please kindly subscribe, share, and comment for more Bible stories.